All right, on to the last two chapters of Frog and Toad Are Friends. Such a great book. And in the last two chapters, one deals with being brave when you're scared. And then the last one is about dreams. And we all have dreams. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not so good, but we are so blessed to be surrounded by family who always makes us feel safe. All right, this friend right here is my little friend Kermie, and he always loved to just sit and hang out. So let's check out Frog and Toad Are Friends. Let's see what these last two chapters are all about. I can't wait to read the last two chapters of Frog and Toad Are Friends by Arnold Lobel. Here we go. Dragons and Giants. Frog and Toad were reading a book together. "The people in this book are brave," said Toad. "They fight dragons and giants, and they are never afraid." "I wonder if we are brave," said Frog. Frog and Toad looked into the mirror. "We look brave," said Frog. "Yes, but are we?" asked Toad. Frog and Toad went outside. "We can try to climb this mountain," said Frog. "That should tell us if we are brave." Frog went leaping over rocks, and Toad came puffing behind him. They came to a dark cave. A big snake came out of the cave. "Hello, lunch," said the snake when he saw Frog and Toad. He opened his mouth wide. Frog and Toad jumped away. Toad was shaking. "I'm not afraid," he cried. They climbed higher, and they heard a loud noise. Many large stones were rolling down the mountain. "It's an avalanche!" cried Toad. Frog and Toad jumped away. Frog was trembling. "I am not afraid," he shouted. They came to the top of the mountain. The shadow of a hawk fell over them. Frog and Toad jumped under a rock. The hawk flew away. "We are not afraid," screamed Frog and Toad at the same time. Then they ran down the mountain very fast. They ran past the place where they saw the avalanche. They ran past the place where they saw the snake. And they ran all the way to Toad's house. "Frog, I am glad to have a brave friend like you," said Toad. He jumped into bed and pulled the covers over his head. "And I am happy to know a brave person like you, Toad," said Frog. He jumped into the closet and shut the door. Toad stayed in the bed and Frog stayed in the closet. They stayed there for a long time, just feeling very brave together. What are things that scare you, and what do you like to do to make yourself feel better? Think about that. I don't know about you, but I also like to get right underneath my blanket and just have my blanket hug me tight. Or sometimes it's nice to just get a hug from a family member. Oh, give me a big old hug, right? Let's read the next chapter. This next chapter is called The Dream. Toad was asleep, and he was having a dream. He was on a stage, and he was wearing a costume. Toad looked out into the dark. Frog was sitting in the theater. A strange voice from far away said, "Presenting the greatest Toad in all the world!" Exclamation point. Toad took a deep bow. Frog looked smaller as he shouted, "Hooray for Toad!" "Toad will now play the piano very well," the strange voice said. Toad played the piano, and he did not miss a note. "Frog," cried Toad, "can you play the piano like this?"
"No," said Frog. It seemed to Toad that Frog looked smaller. "Toad will now walk on a high wire, and he will not fall down," said the voice.
Toad walked on the high wire. "Frog," cried Toad, "can you do tricks like this?"
"No," peeped Frog, who looked very, very small.
"Toad will now dance, and he will be wonderful," said the voice. "Frog, can you be as wonderful as this?" said Toad as he danced all over the stage. There was no answer. Toad looked out into the theater. Frog was so small that he could not be seen or heard. "Frog," said Toad, "where are you?" There was still no answer. "Frog, what have I done?" cried Toad. Then the voice said,
"The greatest Toad will now—"
"Hush up!" screamed Toad. "Frog, Frog, where have you gone?" Toad was spinning in the dark. "Come back, Frog," he shouted. "I will be lonely." There he is spinning. I wonder what will happen in his dream.
"I am right here," said Frog.
Frog was standing near Toad's bed.
"Wake up, Toad," he said.
"Frog, is that really you?" said Toad.
"Of course it is me," said Frog.
"And you are your own right size?" asked Toad.
"Yes, I think so," said Frog.
Toad looked at the sunshine coming through the window. "Frog," he said, "I am so glad that you came over."
"I always do," said Frog.
Then Frog and Toad ate a big breakfast, and after that, they spent a fine, long day together. Do you ever have that where you wake up from a really weird or different dream and it kind of throws you out of sorts for a little bit? And then you just have to shake it off and you have to start your day, right? That's exactly what Toad did. All right, I hope you enjoyed these 2 chapters of Frog and Toad, and I look forward to seeing you in class. Take care. Love, Miss Heidi.